we heal from broken promises? What I would challenge you to start by being intentional. What do I mean by that? If you're human, we're going to experience some levels of promises that were broken. It may be in degrees, right? Somebody may not follow through on what they say they're going to do. Others may pretend to be one person, but they're not, and we've invested so much time into that friendship or relationship, and they showed they're not trustworthy. I think the most devastating when there's a divorce. So how do we heal from such devastating loss? It's not an easy answer, but I would suggest to you it starts with being intentional. And being intentional means understanding the reality of our world. And that reality starts with me, with you. I think it starts with being honest with who we are, who I am, as it relates to other people. What do I mean by that? I need to be honest about my qualities and characteristics that might be causing me to trust people in the most intimate, deepest things, trusting the wrong people. There are some people who are worth trusting, and there simply are people who are not. So taking responsibility for our part in trusting individuals who are untrustworthy might be one of the first things to reconcile within ourselves. And then after we work through that process, then being intentional about trusting again. Learning the lesson of why it happened, what part did I play in it, and then being intentional about trusting again, having learned the lessons of that very painful relationship. In one of my earlier videos, I talked about control as it relates with happiness. And I mentioned that people who are most happy are usually ones who feel that there's a certain level of control over their lives. And an important aspect of having control is taking responsibility for your life and for your actions and for your behaviors. And this is where healing from a devastating loss, such as a divorce or a relationship where there were broken promises, come into play. It's easy to act like the victim of such things, right? But what if you turn that around, right, and asked yourself, what did I do to trust someone who was so untrustworthy? How would that change the way you see yourself and the way you see your world around you? And then how would that change your ability to take control of your life and trust again and live intentionally? I would say it will be monumental if you could do that. So it requires changing perspectives, taking control of the fact that you have been a victim of devastating loss, and now taking control of that by taking responsibility for what happened, saying, what part did I play in trusting someone that was so untrustworthy? What can I do to learn from it and make better decisions in the future? When you do that, you're going to feel a renewed sense of empowerment and strength. And if you don't get that, there's a way to get it through your higher power. And that could be a different video. If you're interested in hearing that, send a comment and I can do a separate video on that. When you take responsibility and intentionally decide to trust again, it's going to require you trusting yourself first, which might require, before you do that, some interior work, some introspection, and some awareness, self-awareness, self-responsibility, and then taking one step at a time towards rebuilding confidence to trust again. And that's going to also impact the kind of people you decide to invest in, to trust. If you don't do that, there is a high likelihood that you're going to repeat past mistakes by trusting the wrong people and then going through that same loss yet again, reinforcing predisposition that people are not trustworthy, which will most likely cause you to isolate and be self-protective. But how do we break out of that and go out there and trust? It takes courage and it takes risk, but not the kind of risk that is irresponsible or unresearched, but one that is intentional, discerning, and confident. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to make mistakes. You will. But your mistakes will be based on, because it's based on intentionality, you're going to be able to bounce back more quickly and learn from it. And then make, again, every mistake that you make will be a step towards making better decisions down the road. It will take time and it will be a journey. You're going to discover things that maybe you weren't the best person to trust either. You know, maybe you shouldn't trust yourself in certain areas of your life. Like for me, I knew that my choices in men were not always great. So I had to be discerning about who do I trust, who do I not trust. I had to be discerning about my natural inclination to be cynical and distrustful, which impacts who I choose ultimately to have a relationship with and who I don't. And then once I'm in that relationship, the dynamics that occurs in that relationship, because naturally I'm going to want control if I have a level of distrust in me. So knowing myself is going to be very, very important. And then once you have a good understanding of your good, bad, and ugly qualities, then being honest in that next relationship about who you are, how you go about relationships, and being honest with that other individual as well. And, you know, not everyone's going to deserve your trust. So trust yourself that when you see someone who's untrustworthy, don't compromise on your core values just because you don't want to be alone or just because he's convenient for you. And you want to trust because it's easier. This way you don't have to worry about all the things that goes into not trusting someone, which might be the termination of their relationship, right? Or limiting your involvement with that person, especially when you don't want to limit your involvement and you want to trust everything he says, you know, like, I love you, I want to spend my life with you, you're the most everything, right? It's so easy when someone love bombs us to just go with the flow of that and go against our intuition at times. You know, which leads me to a really good point. I believe that God, my higher power, speaks to me through my intuition and my gut feeling, And sometimes it's very inconvenient to listen to it because it might tell me one thing that I don't want to do or don't want to think about, but it causes me to think about that. And if I ignore that gut feeling and just go with what I want, it's going to create havoc on my life. The other thing that impacts our ability to trust, our confidence level, and our ability to trust ourselves is the trauma that we might have experienced in our childhood and later on in our lives. Oh, what do I mean by that? Well, if we experienced abuse early on in our life, emotional abuse, someone who told us we're not worthy, and treated us very in an abusive, emotionally abusive or sexually abusive way, directly or indirectly, we might have gotten the message that we're not worthy of someone's love, that we have to always work for someone's love. And that we also might have come to some misguided understanding that we can't trust our intuition, because every time we expressed what ourselves based on that feeling, we got stamped down and was accused, you're wrong. So we might have grown up thinking we're wrong for feeling what we feel. So I am not going to listen to that intuition anymore. I'm just going to stuff it whenever, and then follow whatever this person wants me to do to appeal to his or her good side. And this pattern we might have repeated in young adulthood, or during our teen years and then into our adulthood. When that happens, it's extremely difficult to break out of it. It does require some therapy and some really intentional interior work, maybe through therapists, maybe through coaches, maybe all of that, right? So I encourage you to not give up when you have had your heart broken and people have broken promises. Perhaps you trusted people who were untrustworthy. They didn't deserve your trust. And perhaps you didn't trust yourself. And so you went to sources to give you that identity and that sense of value and purpose, but they were the wrong people to go to. Now there is someone who you can trust, and is our higher power, because he loves you. Our God loves you and sees you valuable and perfect. Love of Christ, who gave up his life for you. And that is true. And when you receive his love, you're going to feel a renewed sense of identity in yourself. And you're going to see the value that you have eternally, which is going to give you strength to persevere and do things that you think you just can't do. It's going to open your horizons and open your mind to what is possible. Impossible things will become possible. Well, I hope this video has been helpful to you. Until my next video, I wish you hope and peace.